unsportsmanlike thing I've ever seen in my life. A guy blows an engine, then he drove another mile on the whole, just stayed on the line, dripping oil for another mile. Got to be thrown out of the series.
Far from it. Today, Cristiano D'Amato will start up front as a new chapter opens at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Championship Auto Racing teams and Speed Channel welcome you to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca for round 5 of the CART FedEx Championship Series for 2002. This is the Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey, presented by Mazda. Hello everyone, I'm Bob Barsha. Welcome to what should be a great race. The cars and drivers are on track. The green flag is just moments away. And as you just saw, we've had a little controversy this weekend, but like a fine wine, a little peppery taste on the palate makes it all the better. Let's quickly hear from our pit reporters for today's race, beginning with Derek Daly.
Thank you, Bob. Hello, everybody. Gorgeous sunshine, as you can see. Now, what might happen today? Well, it started yesterday with the controversy in qualifying. Kenny Brack, who believed he had a car fast enough, did not get a chance for the pole, so he loses one championship point. But more importantly, Bob, he is now on the outside of the racetrack and very vulnerable to what might happen as they break and go round that first corner here at Laguna Seca, where we have seen incidents aplenty over the years. Let's now go down to the next member of our broadcast crew, Scott Pruitt. Scott?
Derek, that's exactly right. This is one of those tracks, Laguna Seca, you can run side by side, turn 1, 2, 3, and 4. With that, this track is also very difficult to pass on. These guys will be making big moves at the start of this race, so watch for a lot of action as we get underway. Calvin?
Well, one guy who needs to make some big moves is Michael Andretti. He starts today's race from the very final position on the grid for the first time in his racing career in anything. Team Green are struggling here. They're going to try and use some different strategy to get to the front. Last year, Max Pappas won from the final spot on the grid with fuel conservation. That's not possible this year. 25-lap window. Lap 12 is the time that opens up. We may see Team Green in, Bob.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. And there is Michael Andretti as we move to the starting grid for today's race. On the pole, a controversial one it is for Cristiano D'Amato, who will start next to the very, very quick Kenny Brack from Team Target. On row 2, Bruno Junqueira, who won on the oval track at Motegi, Japan. And Tony Kanaan, still looking for his first finish of the year. Row 3 will be Christian Fittipaldi and Patrick Carpentier. Back on row 4, Carpentier's teammate Alex Tagliani and Tiger Takagi, who has improved his qualifying positions in every race this year. Scott Dixon and rookie Townsend Bell will be on row 5. On row 6, Michel Jourdain Jr., the points leader for the first time in his career, alongside Mario Dominguez of Mexico. On row 7, Adrian Fernandez in his 150th career start and Dario Franchitti in his 100th. On row 8 will be Jimmy Vasser and Paul Tracy, who won a week ago in Milwaukee. Row 9 will be Max Pappas, despite a crash this morning, and Shinji Nakano of Japan. And on row 10, as Calvin mentioned, Michael Andretti for the first time in his career. The first time Michael has ever started a race with the entire field out in front of him. So he will have a lot of work to do as this 87-lap race unfolds.
Now the guys at the back, they can employ the getting out of sequence, but that is also, with the new rules, it's predicated on being able to run quickly. Michael has not shown that he can do that, so everyone at the back will probably try to get out of sequence as early as lap 12, but the only guys who have really shown any speed are Mario Dominguez, who was quickest in warm-up, and Paul Tracy, who had a poor qualifying but was pretty quick in warm-up.
Here's a look at our race analysis. 87 laps around this 2.238-mile, 11-turn road course. The pit window is 25 laps. A car may go no farther than 25 laps on a load of fuel before they have to stop for a full 4-tire change. That makes it a 3-stop race, but each pit window will be about 13 laps. The pit speed, as always, 50 miles an hour, but it's a pretty short pit lane before these guys will be back on the gas on the run to turn 1 and the hairpin at 2. The lights are now out on the pace car. We expect the green this time by, and we're going to do something a little different today. We are going to listen in to Irene Chambers, the voice of CART Race Control, as she talks with flagman and chief starter Jim Swintal. Let's listen in as we approach the green flag.
Green starter. see him start to pair up, please. 10 rows. 3 rows. 4 rows. Coming into 11, 5 rows. Starter. We are green.
Oh, contact. Oh, and a big contact there between Michel Jourdain and the white Gigante Lola.
I think he backed up into Dario.
Dario Franchitti, Townsend Bell, Jimmy Vasser in the yellow and white shell car in the foreground. Looks like Adrian Fernandez there as well. 4 cars in that pile. And we immediately go full course yellow.
Turn 2 here could be a real mess. They're coming from, you saw a real late green from the starter from Jim Swintal. Part of that was because of what happened last week in Milwaukee. The other side of that is the cars are not as stretched out as maybe you would like. When they get down into turn number 2, they bunch up that much more quickly. So let's see if we can see where this gets started first.
Big accordion effect down there.
Adrian got into the back of Jourdain. He slides back, takes. The rest of the guys were just victims of circumstance. That took, he slid back into Dario, took his rear corner and his wing off. Watch. Yep, you saw Adrian there in the red and green catching the back of Jourdain. And
that spun Townsend Bell in the orange and white Vistion car from Patrick Racing. Here again in real time is the start. Watch for the late green and then the run down to turn 1, and then 2 is the hairpin where the action took place. Too many cars on the same piece of racetrack.
there was a pretty good gap from behind Jourdain back to Fernandez. And Fernandez just left his braking. It looks like too late. They stacked up more than he thought they would. Got to the back, and you would say that's kind of a rookie mistake. But Adrian starting his 150th race.
Down to Calvin Fish.
Well, championship leader Michel Jourdain was in. They had the nose ready, but there looked to be no damage on that car whatsoever. They took advantage of the situation to try and put fuel in the car and change all 4 tires.
7 cars in all involved. Vasser, Fernandez, Bell, Franchitti, Jourdain, Paul Tracy also spun around, and Mario Dominguez, the rookie from Mexico, is still parked on the racetrack in the Herdez car. That car changed its number this weekend. They've had so much bad luck. They changed from number 16 to number 55. Here they are.
Michael Andretti has already started the pit stop sequence, so he has stopped even though it was the end of lap 1. What that does is extends their window out a little bit longer before they have to come in at the end of the 25 lap run.
There you see Michael. Caboose in a racing field for the first time since Father Mario bobbled him on his knee. In karts, in Super Vs, in the Atlantics, in Champ Car, Michael has never started dead last before today. But today's race is just beginning. We'll be back. Welcome back. We are under caution, working lap 3. There is Dario Franchitti waving to a big crowd on hand here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca as he makes the long walk back to the pits. He was one of 7 cars involved in a turn 2 crash at the beginning of this race. There's Adrian Fernandez's Lola being winched away. No backup cars will be allowed because there was no red flag. We are under yellow, and the race will flag away again shortly. Let's get to Scott Pruitt.
Owner and engineer, Fernandez Racing. Don Halliday, did you hear much from Adrian? We see a lot of damage on the car. What's going on out there?
Well, it obviously got very tight into the turn there. Not too sure what happened, but Michel, I think, spun in front of him. Whether it's system or not, who knows. Adrian went wide to the right. Track was blocked, basically, because someone else had spun, and that was it. Damage to the right front. And also looks like left rear. He felt wasn't able to be repaired, couldn't drive it back, so we're out.
Tough luck. See you guys at Portland. Derek?
Scott, Paul Tracy does have damage to his car. It's on the left side pod, right in front of the rear wheel. The flugel has been torn off. The team have evaluated whether to bring him in to fix it. However, They don't believe it's going to change the balance sufficiently, so they want to leave him run. The most important message they sent Paul, despite what's happened, he is in the points already because the championship is what this team is chasing. Calvin?
Well, Townsend Bill was in and out. He was obviously involved in that incident, Derek. They thought there may have been damage to the car. They gave it a good look around. It was fuel and tires only, so several of these front runners got away light here. Jimmy Vasser is reporting no damage on the shell car.
That is good news for Vasser, who could desperately use a good performance, as could that man, Townsend Bell, officially 20th in the point standings with 0 points thus far this year. He and Tony Kanaan have yet to finish a race this season, but Kanaan does have a point. There is Mario Dominguez. A flat tire brought him back in. Mexican rookie could also use a good finish. His primary car was damaged after the first round qualifying. In the second round, he had to go to the backup car, put it 12th on the starting grid with a terrific effort. Now here he is in the race trying to make up for that first turn crash. To Scott Pruitt.
Dario, we talked about how tight it gets down in turn 1. What happened?
Yeah, I was trying to stay out of trouble. You know, that far back, you can make a place or two, but you just tried to stay out of trouble. And I think somebody hit Michel from behind. Michel Jourdain, and spun him round. I was going around the outside of him, and I guess he just reversed back into me and cleared the left rear corner off. So that was it. End of the day, straight away. Very disappointing. You know, the race is over before it's begun, really.
Yeah, it's tough. See you at Portland next week. Take care, buddy. Bob?
Dario Franchitti second in points, and Adrian Fernandez 7th in the championship, now out of the race. Here's another look, Tommy.
And see, he catches the tail end of getting in the back, and that starts, he rolls back, catches Dario, and then when he deviated around the outside, Fernandez, after he'd hit Michel, that's when he tangled up all the other cars. So Michel almost got in the back of one of the target cars, and so there was a bit of a chain reaction, as you always have happen, but you know that's going to happen, so that's not an excuse. Just snuck up on Adrian, cold tires, couldn't get it stopped, and took a lot of good cars out.
It's Jourdain that actually took the left rear corner off of Dario's car. Amazing that Jourdain's car appears to be all right. Here comes Dario there. Messy opening. There is Jimmy Vasser in the shell car, making his way back on track. We'll take a break and return with more live action from Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca as the Bridgestone Grand Prix of Monterey continues. In our first Toyota Spotlight, the long relationship between Toyota and American racing legend Dan Gurney produced a number of significant milestones, not least of which was the dominating performance by his Toyota-powered Eagles in IMSA sports car racing here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. 2 victories. The driver team that included second-generation racer PJ, son of Parnelli Jones. Well, Dan Gurney's own second-generation racer is Alex Gurney, who's back in America after a tour racing in Europe, driving in the Toyota Atlantic Championship, the elite of the CART ladder system for driver development. The Toyota Atlantics raced here yesterday at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Gurney qualified on the second row, but had contact with his teammate Luis Diaz and finished 6th in a race won flag to flag by pole sitter Ryan Hunter-Reay, his first victory of the season, and well earned. Here's a look at the results of the Toyota Atlantic Championship Round 4 here at Laguna Seca. Ryan Hunter-Reay from pole. Rocky Moran Jr., another second-generation driving star, was second. Roger Yazakawa has a victory a week ago on the Milwaukee Mile. He finished 3rd, followed by Scotsman Ryan Vial and Long Beach winner Michael Valiente, who now leads the points by 6 over John Fogerty, who won the season opener in Monterrey, Mexico, and Yazakawa. Calvin Fish.
On Team Rahal, both Jimmy and Michel were both in again. Jimmy's been in twice, we believe. Michel's been in 4 times. They're trying to extend their window, and every time they come in, they're changing all 4 tires because the rules regulate to do a 25-lap stint has to be on fresh tires. So the guys are actually now back on their original set of race tires.
And the irony in this is that last year, without the new fuel rules, providing the drivers with so much fuel and horsepower this year, that was exactly the strategy that Max Pappas, used to win from 25th on the starting grid. The Green Waves, we're back underway on lap 7. Bruno Junqueira, followed by Tony Kanaan and Jimmy Vasser. The order is D'Amata, Cristiano D'Amata, Kenny Brack, Bruno Junqueira, Tony Kanaan, Christian Fittipaldi, Alex Tagliani, Scott Dixon, Patrick Carpentier, Tora Takagi, and Shinji Nakano, the top 10. Then Max Pappas, Paul Tracy, Townsend Bell, Michael Andretti, Jimmy Vasser, Michel Jourdain, and Mario Dominguez. That is Fittipaldi. I confused him with Jimmy Vasser a moment ago. Turn 6, up the long climb at full throttle, headed for one of the most famous turns in all of motorsports, the corkscrew. Plunging down the hill at better than 150 miles an hour, headed to the bowl-like turn 10, hit in off to the driver's left. This is the newly reconfigured turn 11, part of a multi-million-dollar, multi-year renovation of Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca that will eventually include 20 two-car garages, suites, corporate hospitality, a new paddock, and much more. There is Paul Tracy, currently 12th. We go on board with the Canadian.
Now that Flugel he lost just in front of the left rear wheel adds extra downforce, and so he's slightly less overall downforce. It also helps direct the air up over that tire, so maybe an increase in drag as well. But he's not exactly threatening the guy in front of him. Lap 13 is an important lap. That is, or lap 12. That is when the window opens up for these guys who want to do a reverse strategy towards the end. On lap 12, they can make it to the distance on 2 more stops, but for that to work, again, they need to be able to run faster than these guys in front of them. So right now, he doesn't look like anybody's holding him up, so that strategy would just put him off all by himself, and you would expect it to net out about the same unless he can find some speed.
His team owner Barry Green said, "We are going to roll the dice today." Turn 11.
There is one other possible benefit from that strategy, which is very low percentage. If the pace car comes out and they have a situation that's so urgent they have to close the pits right away, and there's a pack-up situation behind the pace car, which is pretty rare, anybody who has stopped ahead of time is 1 stop ahead of the leaders, would then gain a big advantage in that situation because they would basically have their stop for free from the track position standpoint. But that has not happened very often, and CART makes every effort to not do that to the leader of the race.
There's Kenny Brack. Was upset at losing an opportunity to make his provisional pole on Friday stand up for the overall pole on Saturday. He did get the championship point on Friday, but on Saturday it went to this man, Cristiano D'Amata, in the Chevron car for Newman Haas Racing. His first pole in his 65th career CART FedEx Championship Series start. Here's a good look at Brack. Has had an awkward start to the season, taken out in a crash in the season opener.
+1 on boost.
You hear the order, +1 on boost. There's a little toggle on the steering wheel, and he'll click that up one. They're just trying to get the boost setting as close to that wastegate or the pop-off valve as possible. Most of the teams, there's no reason to conserve. In the past, they did that to manage their fuel economy. Now they're just trying to get it right at the optimal. But you see how quick these guys, they barely have enough time to get their hand off the wheel and back on the wheel to shift. So even when you get an order like that from the crew, whether it's adjusting brake balance sway bars, it's really, really hard to find the time to even make a little change like turning that dial on the steering wheel.
4th at Long Beach, 17th at Motegi, Japan, and 8th last week in Milwaukee. Bumpy here on the approach to the corkscrew.
And this is very steep downhill. You get a little bit of a sense of it, but from the top of the corkscrew to the lowest point, I believe it's 15 stories. And so this part of the course is very, very steep downhill.
Goes around to complete lap number 10. Calvin Fish has more on the tire situation.
Well, over the course of the practice runs this weekend, Bob, a lot of the teams reported that they really lost quite a bit of grip after about 8 or 10 laps on the tires. Now, the tire wear is not a problem, just the amount of grip. But one man who they said in the spring training session here in February, and certainly this weekend, is Cristiano D'Amata. His car seems to stay underneath him, so we expect him to be able to stay out front. But particularly the players' teams, they're a little concerned. They may change their strategy in splitting up the windows here to try and make even splits through the race, maybe 20 to 22 laps apiece.
There's a look at Tony Kanaan, still looking for his first finish of the year. He was in great shape at the Indianapolis 500 a couple of weeks ago before he hit oil from Bruno Jaquera's engine explosion that put him in the wall. Changed his helmet colors this weekend. He says it's not in support of Brazil in the World Cup going on over in Korea and Japan. He says he's just looking for a little bit of racing luck.
I think Christian must have some sort of a problem. He's fallen back pretty quickly here, and his line through turn 6 was a little bit weird. He didn't use all the road on the entrance or the exit, which tells me maybe he was working on something in the cockpit. He's fallen back considerably from Tony.
There's Fittipaldi. Green, yellow, and white Lily car for Newman Haas Racing. There comes Paul Tracy. Team Cool Green machine off the corner. He's carrying our visor view camera today. It's interesting, the camera's in its usual place inside his visor, but it looks like Paul is sitting lower in the race car. It's a very different view than what we've had before. And if he can't see any more of the racetrack than we can, I've got a whole lot more admiration for Paul Tracy as a driver.
Maybe that's why he's so brave.
Scott Pruitt has more.
I just talked to Barry Green, team owner for Paul Tracy and all the cool cars and Motorola car. Asked him about strategy. What are you going to do? You're going to be at lap 12? He goes, well, right now we aren't sure what we're going to do. We're waiting to see how it's going to play out. Certainly, we've pushed Michael forward to lap 30, but we aren't quite sure. If we were getting held up right now, we would have Paul come in, but we're just kind of playing it by ear. Calvin?
Well, we talked about Paul Tracy in his low seating position. He did that on purpose. I think it's an old go-kart trick. Try and get out of the slips, the airstream a little bit. But I looked at the car in Milwaukee. I couldn't believe how low he is. And we're now seeing the visor cam in action as well. So it's a different perspective. But he was pretty proud of himself. His Eric Haverson said it was his chief mechanic, how low he got to sit in the car and could still drive it.
He is definitely down there in the cockpit. As you can see, not a lot of room in the office. We'll take a quick break and return. More live from Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Welcome back to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Coming up next year on Speed Channel, Speed News at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Dave Despain and Ralph Shaheen are standing by with all the news of the weekend in motorsports. Tommy Kendall and I will join them live from right here on the Monterey Peninsula. Any late-breaking developments following today's Bridgestone Grand Prix presented by Mazda. You're riding on the right front brake duct of race leader Cristiano D'Amata's Toyota-powered Lola. Through turn 6 and climbing the hill toward the corkscrew. Beautiful view of the Salinas Valley off to the right that Cristiano D'Amata is not enjoying right now, I'm sure. It's turn 9 where Max Pappas went off this morning and nosed it into the tire wall. Pappas is currently 11th. And in the points. Outside. Cristiano D'Amata going for the Monterey double. He won in Monterey, Mexico in the season opener. He can win on the Monterey Peninsula today. The pit window is open, but the top 12 cars in the field have not stopped. So we anticipate we won't see them until we reach the 25-lap mark. And here comes Paul Tracy pulling out of the 12 spot to pit. Scott Pruitt awaits him.
Straight down the guts.
That's exactly right. Paul's making his way down to pit clear and pit out. There's gonna be a standard pit stop, change 4 tires. He hits his marks, fill it up with fuel, 4 tires going on. Looks like pretty standard stuff. The Flugel is busted off the side. They just took a quick look at the problem on the rear. He's on his way. He had a problem with the left rear tire. 9.7 seconds. Bob?
Oh, not a bad stop.
Now, this will be an interesting ride. These outlaps are absolutely critical, and these cars are diabolical on cold tires, but this is where the time is made or lost. So even though there's a huge risk, you'll see a guy like Paul Tracy taking big chances, because when things net out and the other guys come in, he will be flying on hot tires when they're coming out on cold tires. Oh, wow, wow, wow. Yep, that's exactly the other side of that sword.
Into the tire wall in turn 4.
Well, that was fucking.
Looks like he's taken the right rear corner off the car. Paul Tracy's race is over. Came into the weekend tied for 3rd in points with Max Pappas, actually tied on points, but leading Pappas because Tracy did have a victory at Milwaukee a week ago, and that is the tiebreaker. Here's another look from the outside.
And just again, cold. Oh, not cold tires.
Oh, departed.
Wow.
Wow, that is amazing.
That would qualify as a problem with the left rear. Scott was talking about it. It looks like they left. The guy was having trouble, and they dropped the car and sent it before the left rear was attached.
I think you can tell how Paul Tracy feels about it. Scott Pruitt, what do we know?
That's exactly what happened. We were talking about, it looks like the guy in the left rear was having a hard time getting that thing tied up, and that wheel just came off. I'm going to slip in here with Barry Green. Try and slip in here with Barry. Barry, it looks like they're having a little problem with the left rear tires. Is that what?
Yeah, it looks like they let him go a little soon, and left rear didn't look like it was tight. At least that's what I saw in the replay, and sounded like we lost the left rear. But, you know, we had to push the envelope, and that's what we're doing.
Thanks, Barry. Bob?
Well, we couldn't see quite what happened there, but I suppose it's the crewman's job to make sure the car does not leave unless he gets the job done.
Well, there's a communication. Every team does a little bit differently, but there's one person that is in charge of holding it and sending it. They have checkoffs from the guys that are on the fuel, the vent, and all 4 corners. And obviously, he might have been just queuing off. When the guy pulls back, thought he cleared it. We'll get a better look at it here. Watch the left rear right here. Slow coming off.
Still working on it as the car comes off the jacks.
Yeah, obviously a bad communication.